Hello friends, this is Steve Hall of Spectrum Environmental Solutions. I am a co-founder and I lead up the monitoring business. Today I'd like to talk to you about how to change out a beam splitter on one of our WaveRunIR-EXTs, our extractive FTIR devices. To do that, the tools you'll need are a 5/32 Allen wrench and a 3/16 Allen wrench and a set of nitrile or other protective gloves. Make sure the gloves don't have anything on the outside of them. So the beam splitter is in the spectrometer, which is in the bottom box, and when you buy a new instrument from us, if you bought a potassium bromide beam splitter, it likely will come to you in a bag or in another box that is sealed with desiccant. That's because a KBR is a salt that if it gets too much water on it, it'll damage it, it'll pit it, and it won't work right. If it comes with a zinc selenide beam splitter, that one is not hygroscopic, it won't be damaged by water. But it cuts off at a different wavelength and it doesn't transmit quite as much energy as the KBR does. So if you're going to be using your FTIR mostly indoors or you have the option to purge it quite often, you can get an advantage by using the potassium bromide beam splitter. So the first thing you need to do is to take a look at the alignment of the top box with the bottom box. The top box comes off just by taking these 4 bands, there's 2 on either side, off, and then it'll just lift right off. That's nice in a way that if you've ever carried an FTIR upstairs to get to a source, or if you're doing a very corrosive gas, you want to get very close to the source so you don't have a bunch of long heated line that can absorb the gas. Carrying these upstairs can be cumbersome, but if you can take the top box off and carry it, and then the bottom, it's a lot easier. So you want to take a look again at where the alignment for the top box and the bottom box is, mostly crossways, because it does have pins and it will pin in place, but it will shift slightly back and forth this way. And it should be pretty level. So I'm going to go ahead and take these bands off. And what I like to do is just loosen the bottom one, let it lay down. You also notice that these screws that the bands are in are maybe a little bit longer than the rest of the ones around the side. So if you ever have to take off a side panel, make sure that you keep the ones that have the bands to the side. There's also this cable in the back that you can go ahead and just disconnect from the top box. And if you had it hooked up to your computer, this would be the cable that would be hooked into the laptop, and you could just remove that cable as well. And if you were using the purge, you would want to remove the purge device. So with all 4 of the bands removed, the cable removed, this top box will just lift off. All right, now looking down on the spectrometer box, there's 14 screws around the outside. And these screws are hex head again, and they are 3/16. One thing of note about these screws is you'll see the head of it has a certain thickness, and that's purposeful. So it's very hard to misalign the height of the top box to the bottom because it just sets on top of all of these. We have to have a lot of them because we try to seal the bottom box so that it is purgeable. All right, now I have all 14 screws out. And what I'm going to do now is put on a pair of gloves. Whenever we open up the box, you have access to the spectrometer and the optics interior to it. And any oils or lotions on your hand, it can be cumbersome to get those off of those optics if it gets on there. So it's just a good practice to wear some nitrile gloves. And the lid will then just pop straight up. And I like to set it just off to the side. So once inside the spectrometer box, you can see the beam splitter is right in the middle of the interferometer here. This one is a zinc selenide, but for practices or for purpose of demonstration, I'll go ahead and remove it. It's very easy to do. There's this little lever at the back of the interferometer. You just rotate it, and it releases a spring, and then you just pull the beam splitter out. Similarly, to put it back in, you will just set it straight back in, and you can see it's kind of loose. And then once you engage the set spring, it tightens it back up. One thing to also note is to make sure that when it goes in, that it is all the way down. And that's how you access and would be able to change or install a beam splitter. Putting the instrument back together is just the same thing I did, except in reverse. So once you have them all in, go ahead and snug them down. There's no reason to over tighten these, but you kind of want to maybe try to get them all about the same tightness. There is no torque specification, but you also don't want to like really over tighten them. So using the Allen wrench like I am at the top is a good way to make sure that you don't over tighten them. If you're putting it on like this, you can really crank down on them and over tighten them. Okay, now that you've got the box tightened down, the lid of the box, of the spectrometer box tightened down, you can go ahead and install the detector box atop of it. And it goes on these two pegs, or these two pins. There is a little bit of slop. It'll allow it to move around slightly, so it's not perfectly pinned in place, but it's going to get you very close. So I'll lift the box up, I'll put it on, and then I just want to take a look again at how the top box aligned with the bottom box, and then I'll just tighten those bands in. You'll feel it kind of drop in place. And you can kind of see that the top box will move slightly. The other thing I recommend is when you put the bands on, put them on kind of loose at first, and then tighten them down. Get them all on first. So once you have all the bands attached and the top box attached again, don't forget to go ahead and hook in the cables in the back. You put this connection cable and then also the cable that goes right here to your computer, and if you were doing a purge, you would have your purge assembly as well. And that's it. That's how you install a beam splitter or change one out. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.